Hey everyone, it's Gordon. I'm here with my partners in crime, Chief Bailey, Louise, and Shiyen. And for anybody who's just dropping in and watching for the first time, do me a huge favor in the comment, okay? Smash those emojis, show us some love here. But more importantly, if you're here for the first time, type a one in the comments so we know you're here. And if you're comfortable, maybe even tell us where you are. I know we have some friends who said they're in Colombo Street, Sri Lanka, and they're going to drop by just to see what we're doing tonight in terms of what is the 10 keys to success, the wealth formula. Why are we going to be talking about TGR, Think and Grow Rich tonight? So I'm going to jump right into it, and I'm going to start with our talk show host, Mr. Luis Martinez. Luis, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you very much again for another Wednesday. Gordon, super happy to be here.
Amazing, Luis. Tell us in 60 seconds or less, who are you? Like, who's Luis Martinez?
Well, Luis Martinez is just a simple guy that run his life with his core values: integrity, honesty, loyalty, respect. And what I do, I help people to create wealth through real estate, and that's basically what I am. I'm a father, I'm a husband, and super humble to be here, surrounded with all of you guys. I'm honored.
Amazing, amazing. What do you mean, just a dad? Hey, a
Pardon?
super dad.
A
Hey,
super dad, yes, a super Mexican dad that
that's
loves tacos.
amazing. Well, I'm going to introduce you to Jennifer Lopez, who is now one of our new interns from Mexico, Luis. She is absolutely incredible. Some of the things we're going to create with Landa for Success with her for our members is incredible. So the next person I want to jump to is Shiyen. Shiyen, could you do us a huge favor, 60 seconds or less? Tell us who you are. Who are
Thanks,
you? Who are
Gordon. Yeah. So, just piggybacking on what Louis said, I'm also another human being here, just on this journey with everyone else, and I like to think of it as a human being who is choosing consciously versus somebody who was previously going on, just sort of autopilot and in the motions of life. So, in the big scheme of things, I do leadership and executive coaching with healthcare leaders, and it has it's been sort of an amazing journey to be able to do the work I do and meet these amazing people. And like Louis, I'm also a parent. I'm a mom of two little girls, and just excited to be here. So thank you.
You know what they say, right? If you want something done, give it to a busy mom.
Yay. And without further ado, I'll introduce myself. I am Lester
Awesome.
Bailey. I'm a retired Chicago police officer. But one of my favorite things is personal development. I look to make sure that every day I work on my personal development. I try to see what areas that I was lacking in and how I can make it better. And then I find out those areas I have been great in and make them better. I love the search of what personal development is and mindset and how everybody takes their time to figure out what path they're on in life. And I'm so grateful to be on this path in order to find out more about myself. Yes, I'm a father. I'm also a grandfather. I'm also a great grandfather. I'm a husband. So I've had the realm of life to have lived by. So I'm enjoying all of this. So, and Gordon, before we get too far, Dr. So, please yourself and who are you?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Chief Bailey. My background is in the real estate mortgage industry, so that's basically what I've done all my life. I'm an entrepreneur, but before that, my parents immigrated here from Hong Kong, and they had immigrated here when I was very young, like 8 or 9 years old. And as far back as I can remember, when I first got here, I was always bullied as a kid. I don't know if anyone can relate to that, right? I still remember being in tears every day going to school, right? And I can still remember the room I was in, the chair I was sitting in, the kids that were bullying me, the principal that was there was nothing the principal could do. Does that make sense? Like no matter how much they told the kids to leave me alone, I was always afraid of recess because I knew I was no longer in a safe environment in a class, and these kids could beat me up anytime they want. And so I was always hanging around with so during recess, I would be glued to my teacher because that was the safest place to be, right? And during lunch, going home to school, I would just literally run home because I was so afraid. And the one thing that I learned was one day I'm walking down the street and I meet this guy in the street. I became friends with him. Became really good friends. And then for some reason, all these bullies started to leave me alone. After months of like just, being terrorized, they just kind of left me alone. And initially I couldn't figure out why. Then I realized my friend's parents belonged to a motorcycle club. We'll call it a motorcycle club. And I guess these kids knew better to leave me alone because if they picked on me, it meant my friend would, step up for me. And at an early age, I learned about the power of association. I hope that makes sense. The power of association, right? And who you hang around with also, like Jim Rohn says, who you're most likely to become. So I'm so glad to be able to hang around with Shiyen, Chief Bailey, yourself, Louise, and so many amazing individuals in our community that have embraced personal development, personal growth, and Think and Grow Rich. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of insight on my background. Now, there's a movie coming up this Friday night, Think and Grow Rich Legacy, the movie. I'm not going to post it on here, but if you guys want a free ticket to the movie, I only have about 5 tickets. Okay, so if you want one of the 5 tickets that I have, text me or message me, and I'm happy to get you one of the tickets so you can join us Friday to watch Think and Grow Rich Legacy, the movie together on Zoom from the comfort of your home office or your home. And one of the individuals that's spearheading the movie night is right here with us tonight. So Shiyen, could you maybe share with us your passion, why you're passionate about Think and Grow Rich, and why are you so passionate about the Think and Grow Rich movie night this Friday?
Sure. So, yeah, I mean, I'm so excited that we have this movie night coming up, and we're going to be streaming the movie. We're going to have John Shin, who's the executive producer, be with us and answer any questions for the audience. So this is a live opportunity for everyone to, ask questions that they've been wanting to ask, wanting to learn, wanting to use in their own life to help propel themselves. And, for me, Think and Grow Rich has been an important component. I think I discovered the book early on in my journey, and I remember the impact it had. And then you have to often go back and reread it and, understand and learn those concepts. But a lot of them are rooted, grounded. The book is so old, but the concepts, many of the principles still apply. And I love that poem, Gordon. You and I both love that. I'm sure the others here know that poem. The one about if you think you're beaten, you are, right? That whole
yes.
Yeah. So it's so powerful, and I think if people can even take one thing out of the movie and change how they see life, it's going to have such a positive impact on them. And that's why we want to get it out to more people, for them to take action, to do something, rather than sometimes we get into that victim mindset and we give up, we lose hope. And how do we regain that control? So hopefully, everybody will take at least one little thing that they can then put into their lives to change things around, because it's worked for each one of us here.
That's amazing. So the movie is this Friday, like 2 days from now.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. 7 p.m. So grab your ticket, you guys. Reach out to Shiyen if you're a friend of Shiyen's, Louis, or Lester. We're happy to make sure you get a ticket to come and join us. Okay, Lester, I'm going to put you on the spot because Shiyen mentioned about the poem. If you think you are beaten, could you share that? Would you mind sharing that poem with us?
You are. If you think you're beaten, you are. If you think you dare not, you don't. But if you like to win, but you think you can't, it's almost certain that you won't. You have to think, high to rise before you can ever win the prize. Life's battles don't go to, wait a minute, give me a second. Life battles don't always go to,
The
I've forgotten
fastest.
it.
That's okay.
Normally I'm very good with
But
this poem because yeah,
I
life's
have it
battles
here.
don't
Let's
always go to the
life's battles
faster.
always
the
go to the
stronger
one
a
who
faster
thinks that
man.
they can. I'm
Yeah.
a
See,
faster, stronger, or the stronger person. Yes, it goes to the
yeah,
one who thinks that they can. How did I lose that poem? And I'm very good with that poem. So I went
that's
on the spot,
amazing.
you all, and forgive me for stumbling at this. But anytime that you're inviting a poem into your life, or you're inviting certain words into your life, what is it that you're thinking more than anybody else? When Napoleon Hill wrote this poem, and it was real serious. He says, again, if you think that you're beaten, you think that we don't have the best challenge in life. And if it says, if you think you're beaten, you are. If you think you dare not, you don't. But if you like to win and you think you can't, it's almost certain that you won't. You know that you have an opportunity to be your best self at all times. But there are times when you challenge yourself, am I that person? I know I'm not the only one, that have gotten behind the scenes sometime and you ask yourself, am I the right person? So think about these words. If you think you'll lose, your loss, for out of the world we'll find. Success begins with the person's will. It's all in the state of mind. What's in your mind? What is that thing that you're telling yourself all the time that I have to do? Because negative thinking does never work. I like how Dr. So says, you don't have the luxury of a negative thought. That's one of my favorite quotes of all times. So as he further goes on, he says, if you think you're outclassed, you are. You have to be sure of yourself.
Wow.
You for you. You have to be sure of yourself before you can ever win the prize. Life's battles don't always go to the one who is the stronger or the faster man, but sooner or later it goes to the one who thinks. And this is all about TGR. When people are
Mm,
getting so confused about Think and Grow Rich, they think it's money, but it's you. It's the way that you think and what that will come out to. So that's why I had to kind of, put this poem back into my head because I know I've said it about 1,000 times and I'm going to say it 1,000 times more. So what is it that you think that you can? Now I can
mm,
give it back to you, Doctor. So I'm ready now. I shook it off.
awesome.
Right, Luis?
Wow, I love that poem. I remember Lester, you and I were in California at the Emmys that weekend, and I remember sitting beside Les Brown, right?
Hmm.
And Les Brown was getting up on stage to
Yes.
receive the Legacy Award, and he got up there and he started one of his favorite poems. Do you remember that? Right? And he messed it
Oh,
up, and I
that's
thought,
one of my
well,
favorite.
if Les Brown can mess up, man, I can mess up anytime too, right? It was so funny because I'm trying to think of
Yes.
the poem now. Come on, Lester, what was the poem? Not if you think you're beaten.
If you want
What's the poem
something
thing?
bad enough,
Oh yeah, if you want something
if
bad
you
enough, right, to go out and
if
fight
you
for it. And he literally he messed it up and he goes, oh, yeah, I can't do the Les Brown laugh. And then he said, oh, I can't believe I messed. And he went back into it. And life is all about making, messing up. And I love Les Brown, talks about it's not when you fall, he says, don't fall on your face, fall on your back, because you can look up, you can get up. And so, anyways, I was thinking about that, about messing up. I want to go to Luis. Luis, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts about TGR and Think and Grow Rich?
Well, I'm a student of the book now. I'm still on it, right? I have listened to it on Audible, and but since I became part of this community, like I decided to become a student of the book, right? Because it's not the same. Read the book, and yeah, I read the book, whatever. Everybody have, right? But who had been a student of the book? Right. And I think it got into my mind one day that I was listening to Bob Proctor, and he says that once you understand the book, you will understand the secret of Think and Grow Rich, because the book has a secret that I cannot tell you. But if you read the book and you study the book, you will understand the secret that is in every chapter of the book. Once you read it and you understand it, you will realize that the secret is in each chapter, right? And that's my journey right now in the book.
You sound like the modern day Bob Proctor.
Yeah.
The late great Bob Proctor. Man, we all love Bob Proctor. So what do you think, Luis, before we go to Shiyen, what do you think? So when Bob Proctor talks about you're gonna learn a secret in every chapter.
Well,
Is there-
just I will put it in the first chapter is
Sorry.
give me 1 second. We were talking about the
Desire.
story of the 50 cents. Desire. No, desire is the second one. So
Okay.
it's persistence. No, I think yeah. Let me go back. Let me go back to my Bible. I'm not a perfect student yet, so just well, let me go back to my Bible. I have it just right here. No, you're right. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's desire, right? You're right. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
And but anyways, it talks about no, it's not desire because it's in the first chapter when it talks about the 50 cent story that I love how Chief Bailey talks about and he told me something that when you're going to tell a story, you need to feel it and you need to understand the story in order for you to tell that story. And today I was reading the story to my daughter. I was telling her, do you want to hear a great story? She's like, yeah. I'm pretty sure she didn't understand. She's 4 years old, right? But I was reading the story, some of the way that Lester does it, right? Like with the emotion and the feeling and how the kid is just there waiting to get 50 cents out of this white man, right? And this guy is just like, I don't want to give you anything, right? And I just love the way Lester Bailey does it. If you can do it, like that will be awesome. I'm not on that level, but it's just perfect. I love the way you tell that story.
Wow.
And but coming back to the book about
Yes.
desire and persistence is something that we were talking about like 2 weeks ago about persistence, right? And I think that there are just simple things in life that we don't understand that is just right in front of us, right? That as persistent, just be persistent and you will get it, right? Never give up. We always say about never give up. Just keep going, right? Because you're gonna get at the end of goal one day. When we don't know, but just keep going. Preserve, just still there, fight for it, right? So it's just talking about one part of the book, and I still have to go through all of it. But that's what I can tell you, Gordon.
Beautiful, beautiful. So a 50-cent lesson in persistence. Lester, since Luis just put you on the spot, can you tell us the story about a 50-cent lesson in persistence?
Oh, I was going to get it. Let's see how she was going to do it. You know, there was once upon a time, a long time ago, in 1920s, you know, we knew the different world as we know today. There was people coming out of slavery, poverty, and all of those things. And there was this little girl, she was with her mother. And her mother were having this nice, beautiful story. And her mother looks over her, she says, I want you to go over and get 50 cents from Mr. Darby. And Mr. Darby at the time was actually the landowner. I love, you know, when you're looking at, you know, being where you are. And her, you know, it's a little black girl during the 1920s. And everybody has to understand that during that time, it's not like it is today, you know, where you have freedom to speak your mind. And she has to be about 8, 9 years old. And you can see the little girl, little brown-skinned girl, pigtails in her hair. You can see her wearing this little baggy little dress, you know, made of probably of burlap or potato sack. And she was told to go out to get this 50 cents from her mother. So she's walking, and, you know, like little girls do, and they're laughing, they're kicking rocks and picking up daisies. She's doing this, but she has affixed to her mind what her mother told her to go get 50 cents. So she finally reaches the barn, and she's standing there looking at Mr. Darby just standing and he's working, and you can see him. He's sweaty. He has on the sleeveless shirt. He's red in the face because he's a big guy. And the little girl's just standing there. So he feels somebody looking over his shoulder. And you know how you get that feeling when somebody's looking over your shoulder. And he looks back and he sees this little black girl standing there. And he says, "What do you want?" The little girl says, "My mammy says, send her 50 cents. And he looked at her and says, "I will not. Now get out of here." The little girl says, "Okay." And he went back to work. Working, the little girl had not moved her feet. She is standing right there as if no one has ever spoken to her. No one said anything. So he looks back. Oh, he couldn't feel like, did she leave? And she didn't leave. He looks and says, "Didn't I tell you to leave?" Little girl, nicely in the sweetest little voice, says, "Yes, sir." And he's like, but she's still not moving. He's not getting understanding. Why isn't she moving? So now he decides he's starting to build up anger, when somebody is working hard and somebody is not listening to him. And during those times of the 1920s, Black children, especially little girls, were not going to talk back to no white man. That was just unheard of. But the little girl stood there and she looked at him. So he picked up his little stave and he moved toward her. I mean, you can see the anger in his face. Well, while he was doing that, his nephew was watching this and he thought he was going to see a murder. He just knew that this little girl was about to be murdered. And he walked over and says, "What did I tell you?" And the little girl says, again, "My mammy says, send me 50 cents. He says, "I will not. Now get out of here." And the little girl says, "I'm not." She yelled right back in a little streak, "No, I'm here to get the 50 cents. And this man is looking. You can see the sweat popping off of his face. You can see the anger getting into him. And the little girl still standing there like, there's nothing going on. And all of a sudden he looks at this little girl and he sees the passion in her. He sees what she is standing there for. She's there for a reason. And no matter what he said, she wasn't going to move. So he finally put his hand in his pocket, looked at this 50 cents and gave it to this little girl. This little girl turned around and looked at him as she was, getting ready to leave. She never took her eyes off of him. She was making sure, she said, "No matter what, I'm not going to stop looking at you." And she backed up out of the door and she was going back home. Now, after he sat there and saw this little girl and had this conversation with him, he said, "Let me go have a seat," because he had to think about, why have I been beaten by this little child? And you can just see him staring off into space because he did not get the lesson until that little girl left and he pondered on, as Luis would say, that secret. What was that thing that you were going to learn from this little girl? And for you all that don't understand that particular secret, I guess you're going to have to read the story again, because it's real simple, because we talk about the story of persistence. What was it that she did, no matter what he said, no matter what his actions were? Now, I laugh about the story myself because I'm not sure whether she was more afraid of him or her mother at the time. But it makes you wonder, when you're looking at that story, what was it that made that little girl stand there? And that lesson, Dr. So and I wrote a book called The 10 Keys of Success, the Wealth Formula. And we talk about that story because there's something that each person has to get in order to get that success. There is no multimillionaire, no multi-billionaire in today's time who have not read the story of Think and Grow Rich. And there are plenty of stories that get you to get an understanding of what you need to be the best successful in that. So Shiyen, what did you think about my story?
It was amazing. You should have been in the movie. We have a star with us.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, Dr. So will tell you, I work for a movie crew, as it is called Dirt Merchant Films.
Yeah. Pretty incredible. Just to put a little bit into perspective, when Lester talks about Dirt Merchant Films, he is actually being so humble. You know, a couple years ago, Lester started reading Think and Grow Rich, and that turned into every day online for several years. Can you imagine? But as a result of reading Think and Grow Rich every day online, like what we're doing right now, someone saw him that loved Think and Grow Rich and reached out, and eventually he became the vice president of empowerment for Dirt Merchant Films. And if you guys don't know that company, I believe there's like over 20 movies that they've produced. They're tied in with Hollywood, they're tied in with Bollywood. And you know, when Napoleon Hill says, start with whatever you have. You guys heard of that? Start with whatever you have, because sometimes you think, oh, I'm not good enough, right? I'm not smart enough. I don't have enough money to get. I'm not educated. Or people whispering in our ears that we can't accomplish what we want to do. Well, Lester started reading Think and Grow Rich, and the doors that's open for him is incredible. So start with what you have, and eventually better tools are going to come along, or better, opportunities, better things, better people are going to come along. And that's exactly what happened, Lester. So congratulations. So you guys, I encourage you to read Think and Grow Rich. Lester mentioned about the 10 keys to success, the wealth formula. There is a workbook. There's 10 videos. There's bonus videos. There's opportunities to meet individuals that we interview, that some of them are like that little girl that we just talked about, just fearless. I mean, who do you know that's after absolutely fearless, right? And despite the fear, they push on with whatever they need to push on with, whether it's a health challenge or a financial challenge. Anyways, I'm going to stop talking there, and I'm going to jump to Shiyen. Shiyen, that was wow, what a story that Lester told, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, powerful.
Was there any part of that story that resonated with you in any way?
Most definitely. I mean, I love that story too. And, for me, it's funny being a parent and watching kids grow. You notice kids, instinctively have so many of these principles that we learn later on. It's almost like sometimes we learn bad habits and then now we got to unlearn a lot of them. But kids, like I have a 5-year-old, and I can see a lot of that persistence. I always say I need to learn how to negotiate from her, because she's so good at getting what she wants.
Yes.
These are things sort of innate to so many of us as human beings, and we just, through experiences, things that happen to us, we somehow kind of dim our light, and we feel the fear, and then we make excuses, and it's either excuses or results, as Gordon said. So very powerful for me too.
Love it.
And when you're looking at the story of TGR, and there's so many great stories that are inside of that book, and Luis said that he was listening to one of the stories, and one of Gordon's favorite stories in that book happened to be, and I'm just going to give you a hint to which story I'm talking about. It was death, and they learned to hear. Remember that story, Gordon?
Wow, that's incredible. Yeah. I mean, that was Napoleon Hill's son, wasn't it?
Yes.
And
the one without ears. Yeah.
Without ears. Yeah. I mean, possibilities.
Yeah.
Possibilities, right?
Yeah. The other story. Sorry, go ahead, Gordon.
No, go ahead, Shiyen.
No, I was going to say Marconi's story is also so impactful, but also there's a little bit about Einstein, when he was younger, and how the teachers and the principal had actually said that he was not doing well in class, like, he had to be expelled. So they sent a note with him to his mom, and the mom actually read the note, but did not tell him the truth. So the mom reworded the note to say that you're too smart and I got to teach you, and you don't need to go back to the school, versus what the note actually read was, we no longer want him in school. So the mom had that faith in her son to nurture the qualities that he had, And that led to the inventions and all the amazing things that he brought to our world. So it's so amazing sometimes what the power of the mind has to do with the results and the potential of a person.
That's incredible.
I
Incredible.
totally agree, and I think that we sometimes forget how to be childs, right? That we are in our day in, day out as an adults, and we forget how to be a child, and we lost the magic, we lost the imagination, and by that I'm going to say the quote of whatever the mind of a man can conceive and believe, it can achieve, right?
Wow.
And I think that as an adult, sometimes we forget how to create imagination, right?
Mm.
And there's many people, how can that be possible? How can you be so close? How can you open your mind, right? Who, like, let's say Elon Musk, right? For everything that, like, who, like, most of the people, like, you're crazy. He's not crazy. He just basically has his mind open to many things that many people cannot even think about, and he's just imagining, like, what it can be possible, right? So whatever the mind can create, it can be possible and achievable, right? That's what I can think. And again, coming back to the, as a child, I love my daughter. I love to spend a lot of time with my daughter because I learn a lot from her, right? As Shiyen was saying, right? I believe that childs have sometimes the answer more than one that we do most of the time, and we can learn a lot from there. And I think I saw a video one day. There was this professor saying that that he was asking this question. Let me remember. He was like, "Okay, kids. So if I'm here, where am I standing? Like on Earth." And he was preparing to say, like, in the class, inside the classroom, right? So you never know what the imagination of the child can bring up to, right? So sometimes asking questions to child, it can be like more opportunities, right? And thinking as a child, sometimes it can bring you more chances to have more visual of your options.
That's amazing.
That makes sense.
Absolutely. Dr. Shobi Chanda, thank you for watching. She's a great topic. Kiran, thank you. If you guys have any questions for any one of the folks that are on here, Shiyen or Chief Bailey or Luis, please feel free to write them in the comment, and we'll do our best to answer them. If not, we'll answer them afterwards as well. And remember, we're here every Wednesday night, okay? And we can have up to 10 people at a time in this meeting room. So there's 4 of us right now. So there's actually room for 6 more people. So next Wednesday, if you want to come and join us, please feel free to let us know, and we love for you to be a guest, so you can actually maybe share some of your thoughts about the 10 keys to success or wealth formulas. All right, let's move on to imagination, since Luis just talked about imagination. I was going to say landing for success. Think and grow rich, right? Napoleon Hill talks about there's an entire chapter based on imagination. Can you think of a time, Shiyen, where imagination, something because of imagination in your life or someone else's life, where things just magically happen because of that?
Yeah, maybe I'll share this example of my my grandparents who fled China during the Civil War. So, their immediate family was being persecuted and they had to flee for their lives. And I think if they weren't able to imagine what lied on the other side, they would have never made that trip to walk an entire year to then end up in a new country, start a family. They lost their kids along the way. So a lot of the turmoil, the things that they went through would not have been possible if they couldn't have imagined the light, a little bit of the future that they were envisioning for themselves. I don't know if that resonates with you, Gordon, and I know you share a somewhat similar, story with the whole immigration experience, but that's something that is very powerful for me personally in my own, in my own journey.
Wow. Well, as you were talking, Shiyen, I was looking up on Google, right? Your last name. All of a sudden, I thought Shu or So, right? It's probably like probably the same last name in Chinese. I'm just thinking maybe we're related, right? uh,
Yeah.
and I've heard stories from my mom and dad. They're passed away now. My mom was my best friend. I mean, growing up, she was my
Yeah.
hero. But I heard
Right.
stories of the Cultural Revolution. I've
Yes.
heard stories of my mom literally saying that during the Japanese occupation. So during those two situations, she has literally seen people actually shot to death right in front of her eyes. Now, Lester, you've been a police officer. You were a police officer for 30 years. For you, you've seen that, right? I've never seen someone shot or experienced that. Can you imagine the trauma, right, of what some folks have to go through? And so, as you were talking about your story about your grandparents, right, or your parents, I can relate to a little bit of that, right? How my parents left China, how they went to Hong Kong, and then how they came to here. And the place that I grew up in, if you look it up on Google, it's called Diamond Hill. That's the name of the street or the area we grew up in, Diamond Hill. And in Landed for Success, Volume 1, if you go to Amazon, you can actually look up Landed for Success. And if you click on the image, you can read John Shin's foreword that he wrote. And then in there, the chapter 1 is, I told my story, and you can read that for free as well. That's in chapter 1. Yeah, John's got How Rich Asians Think and Grow Rich. But I talk about how Diamond Hill it sounds nice, right? Diamond Hill, but it wasn't all the streets weren't paved with diamonds. We grew up with no running water. And that was an area where if you left China back then and you didn't have a place to go, that's where you went, Diamond Hill. And you lived in squatter home, like, tents and squatter places. And that's how we grew up. So Napoleon Hill says, if both riches and poverty are the offsprings of thought, what are you thinking about? And, my childhood memory, it's funny because my grandchildren are spoiled, I think, with toys. Like even our kids. Can you guys relate to that? I don't remember having a toy growing up. And even after the first year of moving here to Canada, I don't remember a single toy that I had. Right? So poverty, like, some of us are born in situations where we think, oh, our past is going to determine our future. No, it doesn't. And that's why we're here tonight, right, Shiyen? Like some of the stuff our parents have done, or grandparents have paved the way for us is incredible. And that's why we have our book series, Landed for Success. In fact, February 23rd, we're launching our third book, Landed for Success, 18 unbelievable stories. And now we have 10 authors committed to volume 4 coming out in the fall. So if anybody's watching, listening, you're thinking I have an amazing story that you want to share, reach out to Lester or myself, and happy to have a conversation with you and see if your story can help inspire others in the land. For modern day stories, right? Because Think and Grow Rich has stories from the past, not that we were anything close to Think and Grow Rich and Napoleon Hill, but I think our stories are important. You guys agree with that? Like,
absolutely.
Let's have a story. Sorry, I didn't mean to drag on there.
No.
All right, so let's open it up out of our panel here. Who would like to go next?
I'll jump in. One of the things that I want to everybody understand, reading the book Think and Grow Rich, it is not a page. Each chapter in the book means something special. Now, with me, have read this book, so many times. I really suggest most people start out with a chapter of 6 Ghosts of Fear. And then the back of that particular chapter, you get an understanding of why he really wrote the book, because one of those 6 categories that he talks about really resonates with someone that's reading the book. But he did a self-analysis test. And I recommend we all do the self-analysis test first before we read the book, so we get an understanding of the things that we need. Here are a few samples of questions. It asks something: do you complain often or feel badly? If so, what is the cause of it? In the book, it also says, do you find fault with other people, even the slightest provocation? Do you frequently make mistakes in your work, and why? Ask yourself those questions, and then have your best friend, because that's really the person who will tell you the truth, whether you want to hear it or not, because they know all your secrets. Ask them to listen to read the question, you answer them. Because as we started out in this story and we talked about the imagination, all of us have sat down somewhere, be it if it's, on a bench, or we sat down at a beach, or we sat down just in our bedroom, and we started imagining what it would be like to be a millionaire. Every millionaire, that really started to work for him or herself started with a dream, started with a desire. They used their imagination. They had faith in something. They understood that you have to, if the skill that you have isn't the best, find somebody, they call that, the knowledge, the specialized knowledge. Find someone with the knowledge that you don't know. You know, we're here, and Gordon and I talked about the book, of course, Wanted for Success. If it hadn't have been for somebody's idea to write a book, even the first book, Napoleon Hill had to be talked into writing this publication. I love how Napoleon Hill, Andrew Carnegie told us, and he gave everybody absolutely very little time to answer this question. And it was simple question. He didn't go to any hard question. He just asked one simple question: which one of you all want to take on this undertaking? That was a simple question. And most of the room looked at each other like, I don't know, because you haven't told me anything. And Napoleon Hill stood up there and says, I'll do it. It's, what is it that you really want in your life? Is it something that you really think is obtainable? And if it's your dream, your hope, and your desire, it can come true. It just takes you to be a part of that recipe. Like Gordon, when we talk about the Coke, the guy who helped make the Coke product, or we can talk about Colonel Sanders, or my favorite story. I don't know if it's in the book, but my favorite all-time story is a guy who had a Mickey Mouse idea, and everybody thought that, here's somebody with a Mickey Mouse idea. Can this turn around and do anything? And these stories have paid off to be true, because before there was a them, it started out with that person, having that idea, having that goal. Why do you think that you're not that person? That's always the question. Why do you think that you're not? Carlos Segura, and I'll jump off of this and let somebody else talk. Carlos Segura gave me a quote, and he's made a quote. He says, learn to doubt your doubts. Once he told me that, I stopped doubting any of my doubts, because I learned to doubt my doubts. I have bunch of quotes I've learned from mentors and what have you. But learn to do these things, so that way, when you're taking on this undertaking, and we definitely want you with us on Friday. We want you to, join our movie, and you can text the WhatsApp 647-765-2069 to WhatsApp and put in TGR movie. I want you to really see what the ideas were. When you meet people like Barbara Cochran and so many others inside of this movie, you'll understand what their thoughts were. Nobody was rich when they began this career. Rives said, I can't even think of her name. With the exercise, Tybo.
Forbes,
Go ahead, help me out.
Riley.
With the exercise queen.
Forbes
Riley.
Yeah.
Yeah, Forbes Riley. I had her name in my head, and age will let it go. When she started out, she didn't start out a billionaire, but she is now. There's so many stories of people that didn't think about success, but yet look at their success. I like how somebody talked about Elon Musk, or somebody who liked to read a book isn't Jeff Bezos. These are stories that you would think that there's only one. No, those are just the famous stories. There are a lot of billionaires that are there that you have no idea who they are, but they started out reading the book and starting the actions of Think and Grow Rich. So, Luis, I'm giving it back to you. I'm going to put you on the hot seat. So, what is
Sounds
your
good.
thought?
For everything that you're saying, I will put it in the words from the book that it says, one sound idea is all you need to achieve success, right? So we just need one idea, right? And that's basically it. And then I can go all the way to specialized knowledge. When Shiyen was talking about Einstein, right? That he was not educated, right? And you don't need a specialized you need a specialized knowledge, and you don't need to be educated. So in that chapter, it says an educated man is not necessarily one who has abundance of general specialized knowledge. An educated man is someone who has so developed and faculties on his mind that they might acquire anything he wants as equivalent without violating the rights of others, right? So I love this part of this chapter. I'm kind of like skipping a little bit, but the knowledge is not to attract money unless it's organized. And what you were saying, Bailey, is that you need to have everything organized and planned, right, in order for you to get that success that you want to accumulate, whether it's wealth or whatever you're planning. That's what I can add for everything that you are saying.
Yeah, love it, Lewis. And so chapter 5 in here is all about specialized knowledge, and there's a video that backs up every chapter. Specialized knowledge. Shiyen, one of your specialized knowledge is in the health, right? In the health related industry, and with everything that's happened in the last 3, 4, 5 years, I think a lot of us are mental health. Is that the right word? Mental wellness have been challenged. How would you say Think and Grow Rich can help someone who may be having a tough time right now in those areas, or can it?
Yeah, a great question, Gordon. So the book, when we look at Think and Grow Rich, and Chief Bailey mentioned this too, we think it's financial wealth, riches, but it's actually so much more. It's deeper down. It's mindset. It's at your core, understanding who you are, having that belief in yourself. So the reason we're seeing such an increase in mental health issues and the disconnect is because we believe we want something and we don't have that thing, right? So how do we close that gap? And how do we find contentment? How do we find fulfillment with what we have, and then still strive to continue growing towards what it is we want to be, moving towards achieving? And I think that's what Think and Grow Rich is trying to inspire us to do. So understand yourself, understand who you are, understand your strengths, understand some of those things that you need to work on, find the specialized knowledge, and then go and act, make those decisions, the whole, decision and procrastination, that chapter as well. So, I think there's huge value here for anybody who is struggling in that area as well, because a lot of those concepts are just key concepts that will help any individual when it comes to well-being in general.
Incredible. Thank you so much for sharing that. In terms of well-being,
totally
Luis,
I totally.
Yeah.
What you set your mind to do is left up to you. That's the bottom line. Whatever you want to do is really left up to you. As like how Dr. So would say, anybody that is convinced of something against their will or with their will, they're right either which way. What is it that you really want for you? Because I can't want it. Dr. So can want it. Mr. Martinez can want it. Shiyen can want it. I can't want it. You have to want it. And so what if you fail? So what? You can't. Trust me, there is nothing that you can do without failing.
Yeah,
everything that you've ever tried, you failed at least once.
That's it. That's it. And going back to the piece about imagination. So even when we're dealing with, I mean, I'm trained in sort of the mental health space as a therapist and things like that. I don't want to diminish, the obviously the issues around anxiety, depression. They're real, but a lot of it is tied back to imagination, because the mind actually doesn't know how to differentiate between what's real and what's imagination. So when we are anxious, when we are getting tripped out, when we are in that fight, flight, fear mode, a lot of the times it's a false alarm. It's a false alarm that the mind is telling you that you're in danger, but you're actually not in danger. It's the past traumas. A lot of that is coming back to you. That's then triggering that response. So I just wanted to, kind of go back to that power of imagination, because it is so powerful that we forget about it. Whatever we see today is our imagination.
I love it. Shiyen, in 30 or 60 seconds or less, what is it that you do, and why should someone reach out to you for your services? I'm putting you on the spot.
Thanks, Gordon. So I work with leaders in the healthcare space, and typically they will work with, I have ambitious leaders. So these are leaders who are either already in senior leadership positions who want to go to that next level, or I have a lot of leaders who are professionals, middle management, moving into senior executive roles. So that's where I help them close that gap, and kind of show up as their best selves, because they have so many other people to bring along with them on that journey and empower everybody else. Yeah.
It's amazing. Thank you. And Luis, I'm going to jump to you for a minute. Shiyen just talked about your health, right? And your mindset. You're the money guy. We're talking about 10 keys to success: mortgages, real estate. Maybe share with us how you think our minds have been impacted by the way the economy's been the last couple of years, and what can we do to make sure that we don't let that get in our way of having a healthy and wealthy mindset here.
Yes, I think I mentioned that in another call. That three steps, right? Zoom out, tune out, and don't freak out, right? I was just actually talking about it with my wife. She has a situation in her real estate business, and you have to go back and zoom out why you took the decision in the first place to get where you are right now. Talking about in mortgages, like people with variable rates, right? Like, oh, my payment's increasing. Okay, let's zoom out and let's see why you were placed in a variable rate in the first place. Remember at that time what the circumstances were in the market. Okay, that's why we decided to be there. So now it's different questions right now. It's a different market. So can you still hold these payments? So it's an even different market, different questions. So we need to zoom out and re-ask the questions, right? And now that's when we have to tune out and be where we are and how can we tackle the problem, right? And then don't freak out, right? So because most of the time media is just scaring the people, right, for what the
it's
variable
like why would you freak out, right?
Yeah, interest rates are just rising, panic, your payments are going to increase, lock in a fixed rate, 5 years in a fixed rate. Why would you do that? Right, when there are different options that you can save thousands of dollars in a mortgage.
Don't panic, right? Our friend Sai Lee's watching right now. That's how I met you, Luis. And here's Sai buying real estate at 80 cents on the dollar right now. Everyone's complaining about the real estate market. He's buying real estate at 80 cents on the dollar. So there's opportunities if you look for them, right? Thank you, Luis. Lester, you've been in the policing industry for 30 some odd years. In fact, we just got off a call where there's folks in Nigeria that are thinking of bringing you over there to talk about your mindset of how you transition from policing to after, right, being in that field. What are your thoughts? I know we have a few minutes here before we wrap up. What are your thoughts about wellness? Like, in terms of your health is your wealth.
I like talking about it, and I'm going to make this story short. I had diabetes in 2017. I was diagnosed with diabetes, and the doctors told me that there was no way in the world that I can ever get rid of it. And I looked at them, and I for a moment said yes. And then all of a sudden they told me that I had to take shots. Well, I made a decision right there that I did not like shots, never liked them in my life, and I had to give myself a shot, which I liked even less. So I was sitting on my couch one day and I looked at myself and I said, you know what, you need to get up and start going for a walk. So I went for a short walk, to the mailbox, which was only 377 steps away from my front door. I got there and I looked at those steps and says, okay, I got a new beginning. But nobody told me I had to walk 377 steps back home, and I got sick. I mean, I was tired, but I was looking like, what can I do to get rid of this? So I changed my exercise routine. I changed the way that I ate. I changed everything in order for me to turn around and get healthy. So I didn't have to take any shots and any medicine. But I started walking 10 miles a day. Prior to that, I was walking to my car and back from my car. Sometimes I walked to the TV and back, even though I had a remote control. I found a way so that way I didn't have to listen to what somebody told me that was impossible. Because the only thing that's ever impossible in your life is what you think. Everything else is just learning about what to do. So my mindset changed, and I've been in a lot of different situations in my lifetime, especially during my career, that told me you can make it through anything. And I mean anything. So my mental health, my physical health had to come together because one doesn't work without the other.
Mhm.
So that's my quick story. And I know that we got a couple moments. So, Shiyen, some of your final thoughts.
I'd love to pass to Gordon if you wanted to share anything, Gordon.
Yeah, imagination is one of the things we talked about, right? So a story in Think and Grow Rich, I think I'm paraphrasing now. They said, one day you could have um, breakfast in New York City and be home at night with your family in San Fran. Well, back then in the 20s or 30s, airplanes weren't invented yet, right? So whoever thought of that idea, people probably said, "You're crazy. You'll never. What do you mean, like an airplane that's going to fly in the sky?" Well, how many of us now have been on trips, business trips? I remember having pancakes with my son for breakfast in Hong Kong, and then hopping on a plane, and I was back home here in Toronto having dinner with my girls. So imagination, you guys, encourage anyone who's got ideas to pursue their dreams, and don't let anybody, fill you with ideas that you can't. So we got 2 minutes. So everyone's got about 30 seconds, 40 seconds to wrap up. Shiyen, what would you like to share with the folks watching in your 30-second recap?
Yeah, I'm going to say that I loved Chief Bailey's doubt my own doubts. So I'm going to leave the audience with that. Yeah.
Love it. Love it. Luis Martinez, doubt your
For
own
me,
doubts.
I will say, don't put excuses for whatever you're dreaming or imagining that you can do. Excuses are not like it's nothing that's the only thing that is going to stop you, right? And mostly it's yourself. So you have to talk to yourself and have that well-being within yourself, right? And stop being scared of what it can happen, because at the end of the day, what is going to weigh more is the regret, and you don't want to be weight more with the regret and taking action.
Wow, I love it. Regrets. All right, Chief Bailey, grab a copy, you guys. 10 Keys to Success. Go through it. Come back and join us next week so we can talk about it. Chief Bailey, you wrote this. Why?
Because I know I wasn't the only person that needed it. I was not the only person who needed it. It's always good to find out what is really inside of you, take you. And my last word will always be the one I want you to remember the most: persistence, persistence, persistence.
Wow, love it. Persistence. Now, we're going to end here. Love to see you guys come back next week. I'm going to see if I can finish this poem before we end, because we only have until 9. Okay. I bargained with life for a penny, and life would pay no more. However, I begged at evening when I counted my scanty store. For life is a just employer. He gives you what you ask. But once you have set the wages, why, you must bear the task. I work for a menial's hire only to learn dismay that any wage I had asked life would have willingly paid. Thank you, everyone, for being here.
Yeah.
Thank you, Shiyen, Luis, Chief Bailey.
Thank you, Gordon.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Shiyen. Thank you, Bailey. See you next time.